Hi everybody, it's Gemma. Welcome back to Pampered Wolf. Today I am going to be comparing two different eyeshadow palettes. That is four. What am I doing? Wake up, Gemma. Two different eyeshadow palettes. One is a high-end palette and the other is a brand new palette from a drugstore brand. Now both of these palettes look completely different from the outer packaging. One of them you will definitely recognize because I've used it several times on my channel and I've done a standalone review on this product. This is the Huda Beauty Nude palette. It's £56 in the UK, $68 in the US. But the quality of the shadows in here are absolutely superb. The blended shimmers are my favorite in here and you get four in this palette. They are just stunning, absolutely stunning. But this is a brand new product from Revolution Pro. You can pick this up from revolutionbeauty.com if you are in the UK, the EU or the US. Both of these products look completely different from the outer packaging. However, if I open them up, you will notice they are pretty similar. Both of these have 10 mattes, 2 glitters, and the Revolution Beauty product has 4 metallics and 1 blended shimmer, whereas the Huda Beauty has 1 metallic and 4 blended shimmers, and the blended shimmers are my favorite. So I am a little bit disappointed that the Revolution Pro product doesn't have more blended shimmers, but it's £12. £12 or $20 in the US. So there is such a big difference in price. If you've always wanted this one but could never afford it, maybe this one might be a good alternative. Now I have done some swatches of these, so let's just go through those really quickly so that you can see how similar these products actually are. The Revolution Pro palette is on the top and the Huda Beauty palette is on the bottom. So from left to right, we've got Neutral and Bare, Glitzed and Crave, Delight and Play, Glamour and Fantasy, Majestic and Love Bite, Zoned and Spanked. Let's go on to the second row. We've got Calm and Lace, Jazz It Up, which is a blended shimmer, along with Daydream, which is another blended shimmer from the Huda Beauty palette, Calmer and Tickle. Then we move into the glitters. We've got Party and Excite, Golden and Infatuated, and For Real and Kinky. Now For Real and Kinky aren't really that similar. One's brown and one's a pinky purple, but I'm actually quite pleased that Revolution Pro have put some browns in there because I thought that's actually what was missing in the Huda Beauty palette. The Huda Beauty is a rather pink palette and I think it would have benefited from having more browns and greys in there as well. But anyway, hindsight is a funny thing. So just to talk about the glitters for just a second, I actually prefer the glitters from the Revolution Pro palette because they are two glitters that are completely different to look at when they're swatched. Whereas if you have a look at the two glitters from the Huda Beauty palette, when they're swatched, they actually look very, very similar. Even though they don't look similar in the pan, when they're swatched, they actually do shimmer very, very similarly. So let's move on to the third row. As you can see, both palettes have a concealer base in the bottom left-hand corner. I haven't actually swatched that, but you can apply that with your finger or with a brush just to make the shadows pop a little bit more, or you can carve out a cut crease with that to apply the shimmers too. Then you've got Hidden and Secret, Shadow and Tease, Rumour and Raw, Magic and Charmed, and Whisper and Teddy. Now Magic is not a blended shimmer like Charmed is, and I do love the melted shimmers. However, they have put a silver in here and I do think it was needed. It's a really beautiful colour. So we can swatch all we like, but there's no better test to how these actually apply and blend out than actually applying them to the lid, because swatches don't always tell us everything we need to know about the product. Now I'm going to try and do a similar look on both eyes so I don't look completely ridiculous. So I'm going to use the shades that swatched very, very similarly to each other on both sides. Now, obviously this has the 4 blended shimmers, which I absolutely love. I am going to be using one of those blended shimmers because we do have a blended shimmer here with Jazz It Up, so I'm going to be making sure that I use that today to see if it's of similar quality to the one that you get in the Huda Beauty palette. £12, $20, £56, $68. Which one's going to come out on top at the end of the day? Let's get some of these on. Okay, so to start off with, I'm just going to put a wash of powder all over the eyelid, and on the Revolution side, I'm going to use the shade Neutral, and on the Huda Beauty side, I'm going to put Bare. So I'm going to use a fluffy brush to do that. I'm going to put the Revolution Pro on my left side. I'm going to take that all the way up to the brow. And then I'm going to use a separate brush and go into Bare. I can say just by feeling the shadows on the Huda Beauty side are much firmer. They actually feel chalky to touch, but they don't blend out chalkily at all. Very, very buttery. Now I'm going to go straight into the shade Delight, which is the peachy shade in the Revolution side, and the one called Play on the Huda Beauty side. These are very, very similar colours. And I'm just going to pop that in the crease. It's very subtle. Let's go into Play. This one is much more pigmented. So you can actually see on camera that that has actually applied, whereas it's very difficult to see any shadow at all. I'm going to see if I can build that up on this side. They're definitely not as pigmented. That doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's less pigmented than the Huda shadows. Feels nice on the lid though. Okay, I think I've built that up as much as it's ever going to. I'm not quite sure you'll pick that up on camera. It is very, very subtle. The next colour I'm going to go for is Whisper on the 3rd row, and Teddy down here. So I'm just going to deepen up that crease a little bit more. Just on the outer V. Again, very, very subtle. You can see the difference immediately in these shadows. I guess you really do get what you pay for. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Revolution Pro palette, because there isn't. It's perfectly nice. In fact, I prefer, like I said earlier on, I prefer the glitters in the Revolution Pro palette to the Huda Beauty palette. But the matte shadows are far more pigmented in the Huda Beauty palette and so easy to blend out. I'm hardly having to use any products whatsoever, whereas I'm having to use a lot of product to build up the colour. Just really, really struggling to build up at all. Okay, let's go into another colour. Let's do a little bit of purple on the lid as well. I'm going to go into the shade Majestic on the Revolution Pro side, and the shade in the Huda Beauty is called Love Bite. I'm going to use exactly the same brush as I've been using already. And I'm just going to tap that on the outer edge. That's nice. It's a nice colour. You can't really see that it's purple, but it is a nice colour. I think that Revolution Pro have really shot themselves in their foot, because I know they're going to get sales from this because it looks exactly the same as the Huda Beauty palette. So everybody that couldn't afford the Huda Beauty palette will now run out and go and buy the Revolution Pro palette. So I know they'll get a lot of sales. But I would probably be raving about this product and saying how beautiful it was if I didn't have to compare it with the Huda Beauty palette. And they've made me compare it to the Huda Beauty palette by making it look completely identical. If they'd mixed all these up and maybe not made it look identical, and I was just reviewing it as a standalone product without having to compare it to a product that I absolutely love, I probably would have been saying this is such a beautiful palette. It is a beautiful palette, and it probably is also worth £12 or $20. But is it better than the Huda palette? Absolutely not. Definitely not. Let's just add a little bit of the purple. So you can actually tell that that's purple as soon as I apply it. It's just so nice. I'm going to try and build up the purple on the Revolution side just to make them look as similar as possible. These are building, it's just taking a lot more effort. But again, this is so much more affordable than the Huda Beauty palette. So if you've got the time, then you might absolutely love this product. It's blending out really beautifully. There is nothing wrong with these shadows at all. For the money, they're really beautiful. Nothing's chunky, nothing's clinging to anything, blending like a dream, but they don't have that buttery consistency that the Huda Beauty palette has. Similar look so far though, not doing badly at all. Let's go into one of the blended shimmers. On the Revolution Pro side, I'm going to add Jazz It Up, and on the Huda Beauty side, I'm going to add Daydream. Now these are my favourites. I absolutely love them, so I hope I'm not going to be disappointed. Okay, so it's a pretty shadow on the Revolution Pro side. It's not as poppy as the Huda Beauty. So let me just put the Huda Beauty on the other side just so I can show you the difference. It feels completely different. It feels like a butter when you put your finger in it, whereas the Revolution Pro side is very, very stiff and dry. And as you can see, the pop that you get from the Huda Beauty side far outweighs the Revolution Pro, but that is the price difference, I guess. So I'm going to try adding Crave to the top of this one because I think it's probably going to be a more similar shadow to Jazz It Up from Revolution Pro. Let's just add that over the top just to lighten it a little bit. Yeah, that's a little bit more similar now on this side. Now, I think a lot of people didn't like the blended shimmers from Huda Beauty because they thought they were a little bit too chunky. I've never felt that. They definitely are quite a thick shadow because it's so buttery, but it does sit on the lid really beautifully. Let me see if maybe I can dampen Jazz It Up a little bit. That's a little bit better. If you put it on with a slightly damp finger or a damp brush, it does look a little bit more exaggerated. I like that, definitely like that. Again, you have to go to more effort to get a similar look, but you're paying a lot less, so I think the effort is worth it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of colour on the bottom lid. I'm not going to use any of the glitters today because glitter doesn't blend, it just sticks onto the eyelid, so I don't really see there's going to be any difference with the glitters at all. And like I said before, I do prefer the colours of the glitters in the Revolution Pro palette. I just do, I'm sorry, I do. On the bottom lash line, I'm going to use the shade Raw in the Huda Beauty palette and the shade Rumour on the Revolution Pro side. Really pretty, it's a lovely colour. Very, very similar colours. Haven't had any problems with pigmentation on the Revolution Pro side. The darker colours seem to be a little bit more pigmented. And they just blend out so beautifully. So just to add a little bit more colours, because I am trying to try out as many as possible, I'm going to use the shade Zoned in the Revolution Pro Neutrals palette and the shade Spanked in the Huda Beauty palette. Now I just need to mention on the top of my cheek and all over my cheek there is a lot of fallout from the blended shimmer Jazz It Up, whereas there is no fallout whatsoever on the Huda Beauty side from using two different blended shimmers. So that is something to bear in mind when you're picking between one of these two palettes. So that is the finished look with a little bit of mascara. I've got to say, I think if you bumped into me on the street, you definitely wouldn't be able to tell I got two completely different eyeshadow palettes on my eyes, one of which was 5 times more expensive than the other. But there are huge differences in both of these palettes, how they apply and how they perform. So let's just talk about the positives first. I love how the Revolution Pro palette has some browns and greys in here as well. I think the Huda Beauty palette was screaming out for a few browns and greys rather than just all being pinks and purples. And the Revolution Pro Neutrals palette does provide those browns and greys, which I think is absolutely great. I also love the two glitter shades. Both of them are completely different, whereas I do think the glitters in the nude palette are very, very similar to look at when they are swatched. Another great point with the Revolution Pro Neutrals palette is that these blend out completely effortlessly. They're not chalky colours. They don't cling to certain areas. They're really, really easy to blend. But unfortunately, that's where the positives end. My favourite shadows in the nude palette are the blended shimmers. So Crave, Fantasy, Daydream and Charmed down the bottom here. And unfortunately, Revolution Pro haven't quite managed to get there with their blended shimmer. Jazz It Up just seemed very, very dry. I've got so much fallout over my cheek area, which is not an area I really like to highlight because I do have some large pores around here, and at the moment they're looking huge because I've highlighted them with loads of glitter. Serious fallout. Some of that fallout's got in my eye, which has made my eyes run, so I know in an hour's time this makeup is not going to look very good on this side of my face, which is such a shame. If you do go out and buy this, make sure that you do your makeup second. Do your eye look first and then clean everything up with your foundation and concealer, and you should be absolutely fine as long as none of the fallout gets in your eyes and you don't have sensitive eyes. I don't usually have sensitive eyes, but my eyes are running at the moment. So I will let you make your own mind up about this review. If I was to keep one of these palettes, it would definitely be the Huda Beauty Nude palette, because I just think the quality of these shadows far outweighs the Revolution Pro palette. However, if you don't have either of these palettes and you really are struggling to afford this palette, then this one is a great alternative. Just don't expect miracles when you are paying £12 or $20 for a product, because you are going to have to spend a lot longer building up the colour on the lid, because the pigment is not as good as the Huda Beauty Nude palette, but you pay for what you get. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful in some way. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's @PamperedWolf, all lowercase, no spaces, if you want to follow me on there as well. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I upload on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 PM London time. There is a watermark in this corner. If you click on it, it will take you through to my homepage where you can subscribe. Hope to see you all in the next video. Bye.